Hey guys, Moneyman300. Got some more Forza tips, tricks. I don't know if this is really a tip or not, but just talking a little bit about the assists and the controls and maybe some of the differences between Forza Horizon 2 and Forza 5. So first off, let's get in and take a look at what we have and some recommendations that I've got for controls that were the same in Forza 5 as they are in Forza Horizon 2. So the first thing is, do whatever we want with these, but I would, and I mentioned this in my, I think in my first video, or one. To switch your e-brake and your clutch. Similarly, they had the same option to be able to do that in Forza 5. For me, it's a lot easier with my clutch being A than it is on the bumper. I know some people prefer it on the bumper, but for the most part, I think most people that do, and this is only really applicable if you're doing a manual shift with the clutch, which I highly recommend that everybody learns how to do. Anyway, go ahead and switch that if you haven't already. I'm sure that anybody that's playing this has already done that, so this is just probably falling on deaf ears right now. But anyway, what I really wanted to go over in the controls are the access dead zones. This is something I'd almost forgotten about, and I was driving and the controls felt super sluggish, and it was difficult to make minor adjustments or just move the stick just a little bit, or maybe, especially I notice it really in braking and gas. If you're someone who feathers the brake, and I rarely go more than halfway on the brake, if you have a big dead zone in there, you can really feel it. I mean, I was literally pulling on the brakes and it not going anywhere because I was so used to not having dead zones. But anyway, what this shows in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take note. I'm 0, 100, 0, 100, 0, 100. I'm going to reset this to the default. So this is what it comes out looking. And what this is really the first 10% on your steering. So your steering access dead zone to the inside, which means when you start steering, so if you leave the stick alone, your first 10% really doesn't record anything. So it's got a dead zone built in there. Now, it doesn't have an outside dead zone at all, which is good. I think that they had both in Forza 5. But to me, it feels like, and especially if you're used to Forza 5 and taking those out of there, when you go to steer, it just like you got to jam on it to get it to go. So I set this to 0. I highly recommend this. I think you'll notice an instant difference in there. So that same thing with, here's your acceleration access. So it has on the trigger, the first 15% really doesn't do anything, and the last 10% doesn't do anything. So there's a lot of play in there. That's just way too much for me. I want all the control I can get. I could probably live with the 90, the 10% on the back end, meaning, but I'm usually pulling it all the way down anyway, so it doesn't make that much difference. So I'm going to go with 0 and 100 on that one as well. And then your deceleration, same way. So on your braking, the first 15% again doesn't do anything. I use that first 15%. That might be all that I use in a lot of turns where you just want to get just a little bit of brake, maybe a little bit of trail brake into a turn, and that just doesn't work. I think you'll notice an immediate difference. If you're somebody that's usually on the trigger hard and things like that, you might notice that. But if you're used to using every bit of that trigger just a little bit, maybe a little bit more, you'll definitely notice a difference here. So I'm going to go back to 100. And then I didn't play with the clutch. This is a little weird to me since the clutch is a button. Even by default, it's on the bumper, which there's no dead zone on a bumper. That's an on or off thing. So I don't think that, maybe if you were to switch the clutch, if they had the option, and maybe they do, I didn't look that closely, to a trigger, then that would make more sense. And the e-brake, same thing with your e-brake. The e-brake is a button, right? It's not something that has force like the brake and the acceleration does, at least in this game. So those may be more applicable though if you had the wheel and things like that, and the pedals. And I don't know if this supports full clutch pedals and all that, but certainly could be. I don't know what vibration scale means, to be honest with you. I have no idea what that is. So that's all of the controls. So you definitely want to go in there and play with those and find something that works for you. I like the 0, 100. I know some other people who do 5 and 95, but that works really well for me. Let's take a look at the assists. And I want to talk a little bit about how assists work. I need to bump this up at some point. I'll leave it on highly skilled for now. The assists are all pretty much the same. In braking, you have your ABS on, off, and assisted. Again, I highly recommend you train yourself to use ABS off. You will be able to brake faster once you learn how to do progressive braking, meaning you don't just pull it all the way in at once. You just progressively pull the trigger in, and you will stop faster. Then you got steering control, which normal and sim. I have not tested the simulation steering yet to see if it is similar to Forza 5. Some people were okay with that. I thought it was a bit much on the overcorrection side and maybe a little bit more geared towards the wheel users and difficult to use from a control. So I have always used normal steering. It's really the only thing that I've used as far as assist goes. Traction control I have off right now and will remain off. Same thing with stability. Now, I'll be honest with you. Traction control off in Forza Horizon 2 feels like traction control, driving a car that had traction control on in Forza 5. I think there's that much difference. It's definitely a more friendly, I don't know if that's the right word for it. It's definitely easier to drive. Let's put it that way. It's a little bit more. I wouldn't call it full on arcade, but it's definitely in between Forza 5 and a full on Driving USA arcade game. There is some driving that you have to do, and you can get the car sideways and things like that with traction control and stability off, but not near to the extent of Forza 5. So by having these things off, to me it felt like driving a Forza 5 car with them on a little bit more. So, but I still was able to give some throttle control and things like that. It wasn't like it was cutting power, not in that way, but it just from an ease of driving perspective. I think you could run all day without traction control in this game from what I've seen so far and not have any problems driving. So I don't see any real reason to turn that on at this point, even in the higher level cars. I'm driving all kinds of crazy, the McLaren P1 and those completely untuned, and I had really no issues driving it. So the assists are somewhat pointless, and really all you're doing is penalizing yourself credit bonus, because it's really not that hard to drive with them off. So I would highly recommend that. Manual shift with the clutch. Already had a video on that, talking about the difference between and the speed differences between those. So I'm not going to go into that. Yeah, I have full driving line on it because I can't ever figure out where the heck I'm going in this game, and trying to figure out. Otherwise, I miss about 20 turns. But probably get to the point when I know more, I'll turn that on to just turns. But it's different than a circuit racer. So, and then tire wear rewind. Whatever you guys want to do there. So that's all of your assists there. So coming out of this, go in, change your access dead zones. You'll thank me for it later. You're really going to like it better. Trust me on that. And then I would turn as much of this off, get as much of your credit bonus as you can. Going to help you level up a lot faster and get more credits. So we'll end it with that. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Later.